All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started tonight through the Alzheimer's disease seminars that we're doing this series. Kind of doing a little bit of I don't know, a segue into something that's that we could all benefit from, and being that Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's is all right around the corner. Thought it'd be really beneficial to talk about holiday eating. So anyways, we're going to be talking about some of the things that we can do that would be helpful for not feeling guilty at the end of these holidays, not feeling like you gained, 10 to 15 pounds over the last couple of months because of poor eating habits, not feeling poor because you have low energy, because you've been eating foods that you shouldn't. So we're going to discuss that in tonight's talk. So not sure where you guys typically go for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, whether you do it yourself or you go to somebody else's place. We can all run into the temptations of eating foods that we don't want to be eating foods that are maybe too much food, doing things that we regret afterwards. So we're going to talk about that. I'll never forget being over at my sister-in-law's place, and she always hosts Thanksgiving for us, which really appreciate. She loves to host. She's a great cook. So we love going over there and having Thanksgiving with them. But I remember one time being there, and there was a gentleman that they know that was there, and me and him got talking, and he was talking about his cholesterol numbers, and he was saying that his cholesterol numbers were super high, that the doctor wanted him to go on a medication because he said he tried the diet and the diet didn't help, and so that it must have been something wrong with his genes why his cholesterol was high. And so probably just a few minutes later, we got talking about the food that we were about to eat, and we were talking about the desserts. And boy, I've never seen someone get so excited about talking about pumpkin pie. I'll never forget the term that he used, or the expression that he used, is that he just loved pumpkin pie. I mean, I absolutely love pumpkin pie. So he kept saying that, and I kept thinking to myself, well, maybe this is the problem, is that his love for this pumpkin pie might be contributing to some of his cholesterol issues. And so it's interesting how we use words like we love certain foods. And like I said, the way he described it was more than just just a like for pumpkin pie, but it was a very big passion that he had for this pumpkin pie. So again, I don't know if that's why his cholesterol was high, but just based off of how he was talking about food, it was interesting, because I don't think there's any food that I've ever felt that passionate about, even though I like lots of different types of food. So tonight we're going to talk about that, because we can have those kind of emotions for different foods that can cause us to go down a path that we really don't want to go down. So tonight we're going to be talking, like I said, we're going to be talking about how we can be eating healthy food over the holidays. Okay. And so as you look at this table, I just love this picture, because it looks a lot different than what you see with a lot of American type of Thanksgiving meals, Christmas meals. But yeah, you look at it and you think, man, that looks so good. Like, it really looks healthy, and it looks like you would enjoy it as well. And so that's what we're going to talk about. Is I'm going to go over some tips that you can do that would allow you to be able to eat healthy over the holidays and over the break that we have coming up. So anyways, one of the first places I want to start then is I don't know if you've ever been like this guy here. I know I have, because you get to the Thanksgiving meal and we have lots of food. There's more dishes than you're used to having when you normally eat. Usually you might have a vegetable, you might have a carb, and you might have a protein. So you might have some rice, some chicken, and some vegetables. Or you might have some potatoes, a steak, and some more vegetables. But when you get to the Thanksgiving meal, we've got turkey and sweet potatoes and stuffing and green bean casserole and other vegetables, and we might have fruit as well, and there's other side dishes as well. And so when we get to the table and we see all these choices and we like the taste of them all, what can happen is we start putting on the different foods on our plate, and by the time we get even maybe halfway through all the dishes, we already realize, hey, I've got a pile of food on my plate. And so then you just start stacking it even higher and higher. And so one of the things you really want to work on is not filling your plate like this gentleman has. I'll tell you a couple ways that you can do it. Is the first thing I would highly recommend is that the first thing you put on your plate would be vegetables, and not necessarily the green bean casserole, because the green bean casserole is cooked in cream of mushroom soup, which is highly, well, there's a lot of preservatives in that food. It's not really, well, it's not a good food at all. The canned beans probably aren't that good. So I would say take as little of that as possible. So I would start with vegetables. And so maybe there's some roasted vegetables that you have. So we've been taking a survey in our office about what people like the most when it comes to foods for their Thanksgiving meal. And probably the two winners are turkey and then stuffing. But then after that, I've heard a lot of different ones like the cranberries. And we're not talking about the cranberry can, although I did have one person say that that's what they like, is the cranberries that came out of the can. But real fresh cranberries. But another one was Brussels sprouts and roasted beans, roasted carrots. And so start with those vegetables on your plate first, and then start filling the plate up after that with some of the other foods. Like probably the next best one would be, if it's a good turkey cooked right, then I would say the turkey would be up there. Maybe you got some raw vegetables as well. Maybe there is some fruit, so you can throw that on the plate. And then I would start putting on the more, like the less healthy things, like say the mashed potatoes, the stuffing, the green bean casserole, the foods that just aren't as healthy for us, and taking small portions. Because one thing you'll find as you eat the Thanksgiving meal, a lot of times, even when you get that giant plate of food, you realize, hey, I really didn't need this much. It was good the first couple of bites, but then after that, it really wasn't as good as I remember. And so really, for most foods that are really rich, a couple bites is all you would need. And so, so again, start with the vegetables. Then I would go with either meat next, or like I said, raw vegetables, or fruit, and then start adding more of those kind of starchy carbohydrates that we know aren't that good for us, but yet we still want to eat them. We want to have a taste of them. So then put that on the plate. And so that's how I would start first, with not overfilling our plate. So taking small portions of foods, except for a large portion of vegetables. And especially if they're nice roasted vegetables, they're going to taste really good. And you won't feel like you're depriving yourself of something that tastes really good. The next tip would be, again, so this is just an example actually of taking smaller portions and having a lot of vegetables, but yet you can still have some foods that aren't as good for you, but you just don't take a large portion of them. So that's what a plate could look like, versus going back to that plate that's way too many calories, way too much food. So the next thing, and I think we're all aware of this if we've ever been to a party, or especially Christmas parties, you see a lot of this, but you might see this again at Thanksgiving as well, is kind of like more like a buffet table, or a table that's just packed with food. And what you'll typically see is that you will see people hovering around that table, just talking and hanging out, just like we at our house have a great big island, and that's definitely in our kitchen, and that's definitely where everybody likes to hang out, is right around the island. Well, that's where all the food is as well. And so one of the issues you can have is, as you stand there just talking to people, is you literally can be mindlessly eating and not even realize that you just ate like a whole bunch of food just as you stood there, because you were just keeping yourself busy while you were talking to someone. So what I would recommend is a couple of different things. One is move yourself away from that table, because you are going to be more tempted as you stand there right beside a bunch of food. Or the other thing you could do is you could go stand where you're more apt to eat vegetables, that you're standing at the table where all the food is, but you're standing at the end where, say, the raw vegetables are. So the only thing you're eating is just a bunch of raw vegetables, which really, for most of us, is not going to make us unhealthy at all. In fact, it's going to be really beneficial to us to eat that food. Plus, it's probably going to um, help us to not be so hungry for some of the other food that's just not that good for you. So again, as we have these big tables just full of food, we're close to the food, we're going to probably sit and snack on it. So either move yourself to where that healthy food is, or just move yourself completely away from that table, and then you won't have that temptation. So that's tip number 2. So the next tip after that would be, again, just looking at when you are making those choices of what to eat, when you're looking at filling your plate, is starting with the vegetables that are out there. And so I can't say where you're going for Thanksgiving. I can't say what you're cooking, but most places you go to have vegetables that you can eat. If they don't, what I would highly recommend then is that you participate by bringing in a healthy dish of vegetables. I heard a couple of different recipes for Brussels sprouts. Both of them, they roasted the Brussels sprouts, covered them with olive oil. So cut them in half, covered them in olive oil, put some sea salt on them, roasted them for 15 minutes at 350. Kind of just take the tray out, slide them around, so don't even flip them. And then roast them for 15 more minutes at that 350 degrees. And then one of the recipes was they put bacon on that, and then some balsamic vinegar, which is just a great way to make Brussels sprouts. And then the other recipe was they did it with onions and mushrooms as well. They roasted those, and then they put sriracha sauce on top of it. And so a nice little spice to it. So if you're like me, if you're like a lot of us, we grew up, it seemed like our parents just boiled the heck out of all of our vegetables. So the Brussels sprouts didn't taste great because they were super overcooked, kind of mushy. Same with beans and such. And so roasting vegetables is a great way to maintain the nutrition, and then it's a great way to make them a lot more flavorful. So again, starting by filling your plate with your vegetables, making sure that there are vegetables there, and if there's not, you can volunteer to be the one person that brings these healthy vegetables to the Thanksgiving meal. So another tip is to not show up hungry. And so I don't know if you know people that do this. I know I've done this. I think it was an episode of Friends where, hey, I'm not going to eat all day, and I'm going to eat just when I get to the Thanksgiving meal, the Christmas meal, I'm going to finally eat. And the problem is you're so hungry that you, one, usually take way too much food. Two, you're kind of that hangry person. If you know the Snickers commercials, that you're not yourself when you're hungry. So I would highly recommend not taking that approach of starving yourself for the entire day, or some people will even wait like a few days to not eat their food, so that they can really fill up on that Thanksgiving meal, that they can eat as much as they possibly can. And so the best thing to do is and sometimes it's out of your control. Again, if you're going somewhere for Thanksgiving meal, it's out of your control of when you're going to eat. So you may want to eat something, a little snack before you head to the place that you're going. Or again, if you're the one hosting it, then just having a snack before people arrive so that you're not super hungry, so that when you do sit down to eat, you don't overfill your plate, you don't eat foods that you don't want to, and you have a lot more control over yourself. And so the same goes for if you've ever gone to the grocery store and you're hungry, you get home and you start unpacking all the groceries you bought, and you're wondering like, well, how did this even get into my buggy? I don't know. I don't remember putting this in there, and I certainly don't want this in my house. But yet you put it in there because you were so hungry. So again, when you look at grocery shopping, it's best to not do that on an empty stomach either. But again, when you get to that Thanksgiving meal, Christmas meal, New Year's Eve, if you're hungry, you're probably most likely going to eat food that you shouldn't be eating. So another tip then would be foods like this. So it looks good. It's got a lot of color, and maybe not color like where you like the oranges and reds, but it's got the kind of that glistening look, and it smells good. So this is green bean casserole when it comes right out of the oven, and this is a food that I've never experienced until I moved to the United States. I've never seen this green bean casserole thing that you guys eat. And I'm not sure if it's something that's around the country or not, or if it's just something that's more like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, more a Midwest thing. I'm not sure, but it does look good. It does smell good. And I remember the first time having it thinking, oh my gosh, this is so good. I've never had this before, thinking it tasted great. It's not the healthiest thing for us. You can definitely make it healthier by putting, fresh beans in. You could potentially make your own cream of mushroom soup mix to put in there. You got the fried onions on top. I'm not sure. There's probably options that you could put up there on top of it instead of that. But this is something you don't want to eat a whole lot of, because it really isn't that healthy. And I don't know about you guys, if you've ever put this in the fridge and then took it out the next day and saw what it looked like. To me, it looks like gray mush. I don't know if that's what the food looked like when it first came out onto the table. I know I wouldn't even be tempted to eat that food. So it is interesting to see what happens to it when you refrigerate it and then try to reheat it up. It just doesn't look that good. And I don't think it tastes as good either. But so again, it's not wrong to eat that food, but the problem is a lot of times we like it so much that we try to take more than we should. So again, this would be one that you would put on your plate towards the end of putting stuff on your plate. And maybe it's like, 2 small bites of it, and then you're done eating it. You get to taste it, you get to enjoy it, but you don't have to feel guilty for eating it. You don't have to feel poor afterwards because you ate this food that really wasn't good for your body. Another tip then is, again, growing up where I grew up in Southeast Saskatchewan, not that we didn't have our own issues with foods that weren't healthy for us. But again, this was a food I'd never heard of until I came to the United States. And they called it, let's see, was it strawberry pretzel salad? I think that's the name that they used for it. And I think it's interesting because I don't think of this when I think of a salad. It definitely doesn't look like a salad to me. Not sure why it's called a salad, but it is interesting that it is called a salad. So not a healthy thing. And I definitely see this not on the dessert table. This is like served as a dish that you would eat with your green bean casserole, your turkey. And so this would be another thing that I would definitely treat it like it is a dessert, and I would have a very small piece of it if I even liked it personally. People always wonder why I don't like Jello with things in it, but I don't. I think there's a lot of us out there that agree that finding chunks of stuff in my Jello is not that enjoyable. Not that I eat a lot of Jello, but personally, not a fan of this, but it is interesting again. And I think this is more of a Midwest thing, that this is strawberry pretzel salad. So again, just be careful when you are eating the foods that just because it's named something doesn't mean it's healthy. I don't think many of us are fooled by the word salad when they see this this dish. So, all right, the dessert table. The dessert table, it's usually got, especially at Thanksgiving, well, really all three of those holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Eve tends to have a lot of variety of different desserts on that table, and they all look good. From the pumpkin pie to apple pie, pecan pie to bars and cookies and chocolates and all these different foods. It gets us wanting to try them all. So what I would recommend then, and what you do see a lot of people will do, is take a slice of pumpkin pie and then, hey, I also wanted a slice of pecan pie. And so then they go back and have a second slice of pie when really they're already full, they don't feel good by the time they're done eating those. So one of the things you could do is do like a dessert sampler plate where you just take literally bite-sized pieces of each one of these pies, and just you can enjoy the taste of it. You just don't have to eat the entire slice of it. So highly recommend taking that approach. Maybe asking people if they want to split a slice with you, or just divide it up into 3 or 4 little pieces, rather than taking an entire slice of a pie and then going back and having another slice. And it brings me to what you see a lot, and again, maybe this is a Midwest thing. I actually never seen this before, but where people do these, I don't know if it's called a cookie exchange, or I think it is. I think it's like, so each person, what they do is they bake a whole bunch of cookies, and then they get together. And so everybody's got a different type of cookie. They might have something like Christmas wreaths. I don't know. Again, this is not something I'd ever seen before until I moved down to the States. But my wife's sister, she makes these Christmas wreaths. I think they're made out of cornflakes and green dye and marshmallows and red hot candies. And I've never seen people eat so many of these things in my life as watching, well, my wife's guilty of this, but she tries to limit herself, but just really enjoys eating these Christmas wreaths. And so the problem is, you show up to these places and they've got just trays of these cookies and Christmas wreaths and all these different things on them. And the problem is, you've got just an abundance of these foods. So you could just sit there and eat cookie after cookie after cookie. As far as when you look at people doing this, one thing I definitely understand is that there's tradition that comes with making a lot of these dishes, making a lot of these desserts. And so I totally get why people will be involved with these cookie exchanges. I can see a huge benefit socially, that these people can hang out, they can do this cookie exchange and have a lot of fun doing it. And so maybe you get together with your friends and talk about, hey, maybe we shouldn't make so many cookies, that maybe we're bringing a dozen cookies instead of 2-3 dozen cookies, or maybe it's not even that much. Maybe there's 6 of you getting together, so you literally just make 6 cookies, which I know it's like, okay, who just makes 6 cookies? But just looking at different ways that you could overcome these huge plates filled of Christmas cookies. And so that could be one. Another one literally could be that you make those cookies, you do an exchange, you put all the different cookies on plates together, and then when you get home, you just take them. And I know this is going to sound wasteful, but you just throw them right in the garbage, which again, that can seem very wasteful, but it's funny how we think throwing in the garbage is a waste, but stuffing our face with it, making us unhealthy, is not a waste, which really, that's probably, well, that is a bigger waste to put that food into your mouth than it is to just throw it in the garbage if it's going to make us have health problems and make us sick. Maybe there's something else you could do, start a different tradition that's not involved in cooking something, not involved with baking. I honestly don't know what that is. I'm not that creative, I guess. But that could be an option too, is to get together and exchange other things, or just get together and have tea or something and enjoy spending time with your neighbors, your family. So again, I understand why people do it. I just know that a lot of people end up having food in their house that they don't want. And then I definitely have heard people bring it to work, or they bring it to the school, they bring it to the teachers. And even at Natalie's work, people that just want to bless other people, they might bring it to other places like a nursing home and give it to the staff, which is really generous and really nice. But the problem is, now they have that same issue. They're eating food that they really don't want to be eating, but it's sitting in the break room. And now I just find myself eating this food mindlessly. And ideally, it'd be better if, again, you just threw it in the garbage and bless them in a different way than bringing them food that could potentially cause health issues in the future if they are eating this. So again, nothing wrong with eating this food if we're just having a little bit of it and we're not doing it often. But the problem is, it typically starts actually even back as far back as Halloween. We start eating a lot of sugar and creating all these different wonderful desserts and stuff. But yet, again, they just sit around in our homes, and we just decide we want to eat them because they do look good, they taste good, smell good. And so big things that we see with eating all this sugar is that it really suppresses our immune system. And so one of the things that you hear around this time of year is, they call it flu season, they call it cold season, but you hear all this crud going around. And definitely there's a lot of reasons that's happening. But one of the biggest reasons is that we're putting poor food into our bodies that can suppress our immune system and make us more susceptible to catching, getting sick from viruses or bacteria. So again, going back to the dessert, just taking a little sampler plate, you can try it all, but just have just a bite of each thing rather than a whole slice of it. The next tip is, I mentioned this already earlier, as far as if the place you go doesn't have vegetables, maybe you can volunteer to bring some nice roasted vegetables. So bringing a dish to share can be very helpful. We've talked to a lot of people in the office, again, just taking surveys and seeing what people like and what they do for Thanksgiving and such. And definitely, as people are trying to eat healthier, a lot of them suggested that what they'll do is they'll bring a plate to share that they know that, hey, this is food that I want to eat. And so at least I know for sure that I'm going to have some food there that's going to be good. It's going to be healthy. I know what's exactly in it. And so whether that's vegetables, whether it's bringing in even a healthier dessert, bringing other side dishes, like a sweet potato casserole that doesn't have a bunch of marshmallows on top, that it's really just made out of good, healthy food. I would recommend that if you're going to somebody else's place, talk to them, just tell them that you're going to bring food. You don't want to be insulting them by bringing food if they feel like, oh, what's my food not good enough for you guys? But just tell them the reason why, and just say you want to help out. And plus, it's a dish that I really like, maybe some other people like as well. So I would highly recommend that if you are dealing with, I'm not sure if there's going to be food there for me to eat that's going to be healthy, why not bring your own that you can share with everybody else as well? So that's another healthy tip that you can do to avoid falling into that trap of eating poorly over the holidays. And then this is a huge one, and I think that it's a really healthy one, and I think that it's actually a pretty easy thing to do. Is that you're there not for the food, you're there for the company. You're there to be getting together with family and enjoying time together. Especially like if you think back a year ago and you think about where you were for Thanksgiving. I think about our Thanksgiving last year, and it was a huge disaster. It was um, my wife's sister, Carrie. She usually is the one that will host Thanksgiving, and she does a fantastic job. We've probably been doing that for 20 some years, going to her place for Thanksgiving. And last year we didn't have that option. And so we really kind of, did it with our own families, but we didn't really, I don't know, it really wasn't like, didn't feel like Thanksgiving. So we kind of just had my wife, Natalie, out in the kitchen cooking. We weren't really, hanging out as a family, doing much. It really just became another meal. People are trying to do a big Zoom call, which I'm glad that there was such a thing as Zoom, but I really did not feel like we connected with people when we were doing through Zoom. You got 20, 30 people on a Zoom call trying to listen to a couple people talk. And I just felt like it wasn't the ideal way. Again, it was nice to have something, but I'm really looking forward to this year because I think that the biggest thing that Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's does is it brings people together and people enjoying good conversations, good food, and good times. And I think that it's really important to remember that what is the purpose of Thanksgiving? Is it just a meal to eat a bunch of turkey, watch some football, or is it a meal that really, represents something? So I grew up in Canada. We have Thanksgiving in October, which is really more of a fall festival. So it wasn't like there was an event. And I think that it's really good to have something like that to celebrate fall, to celebrate the harvest and what we've been blessed with. But if you look in the United States, there really literally was an event where the Puritans sat down with the Native Americans and ate a meal together and just were really grateful for the harvest. They were grateful for having the summer that they did, because the year before was like the first year that they had arrived. It was harsh winter. And I think it was over half the people died that winter from getting sick, from the cold, from not being prepared for the winter. And so we can sit back and think about that and think about what did those people, what was their purpose? Why did they come to this country? And what did they bring to this country that really made this country much of what it is today? And so I think it's really important that when we think of Thanksgiving, we think about what we have in this country, because there's a lot of places in this world that don't have what we have, and we can be very grateful. And so it reminds me of just just sitting down and thinking about what we have in this world, what we can be thankful for. So really important to spend that time enjoying that time with company. Again, I think we really notice it more than we ever had with COVID and what we weren't able to do last year. All right, so another thing that can happen is that we can show up to the Thanksgiving meal, and again, maybe we're so hungry that we put too much food on our plates. But then another thing happens is then we just eat way too fast. We just shovel that food into our mouth. We're in a hurry because we're hungry, and maybe there's a football game on, or maybe we're wanting to get outside and throw the football around. But we know from the research that eating your food fast, it makes it much harder to digest, and it also doesn't allow for you to sit down, spend that time, just like in that picture, spend that time enjoying time talking to friends and family. We're just too busy putting the food in our mouth and trying to get done eating as fast as we can, either to get to the next thing or just because we're so hungry. So really take the time, stop, chew your food. It is really important to chew your food. It does do a few things for you. One, it slows down your eating, so then it allows you to actually your stomach to actually tell your brain when you're full. If we eat too fast, it can take quite a few minutes before we actually know that we're full. And so chewing our food allows us to do that. It also allows us to release more digestive enzymes when we're chewing our food versus just swallowing our food. And then it also allows different chemicals to be released from endorphins, meaning that we're actually enjoying our food, we're tasting it. And so that taste allows us to experience more endorphins, experience more of those feel-good hormones, because we're savoring the food that we're eating. So I don't know if you're like me, go out to eat and we order appetizers, we eat the appetizers. By the time our meal actually gets there, a lot of times we're full. We don't even need that meal because the appetizer filled us up, because we had that time to let the brain hear from the stomach that it's actually full. So to chew your food gives you lots of benefits. Slow down when you eat. Chewing your food really forces you to slow down while you eat. And so alcohol. Alcohol can be something that a lot of people indulge in over the holidays. It's again, not a bad thing to be drinking a drink or two, but what can happen is it can become multiple drinks. It can become many days in a row that you're drinking. You're not, it's not something that you typically do, but you're going to all these different Christmas parties, you're going to all these different events, and a lot of times there's alcohol at these events. And so then we indulge. And so there's a few things you can do with this. Is one is if you are drinking because you're thirsty, then really quench that thirst first with water, or in between beverages like alcoholic beverages, drink a glass of water, and you'll find that you won't feel near as thirsty to drink some of the alcohol. Another thing you can do is substitute it, because sometimes you're just looking for something, maybe it's got a little bit of sweetness to it, maybe it's got a little bit of carbonation. So you could do some of the carbonated sparkling juices, you could do some of the carbonated waters. So those are ways that you can substitute drinking alcohol. And then another thing that can be very common is that we show up bringing alcohol with us as a gift, and it's kind of a housewarming, thanking the people for hosting, but then that can be open, and now you got more alcohol at the house. So maybe you can bring sparkling juice or bring something else that people can drink that won't be alcohol. So those are just a couple of the tips that you can do when it comes to limiting your alcohol consumption. So again, just like we were talking about with hanging out with people, we want to be focused on truly what is it that we're gathering for, and it really is to give thanks. And so the thing you can do that can maybe take the focus off of all the food that's at the table is to maybe go around the table and say what you're thankful for. Just asking each person to share a little bit what they're thankful for, or if maybe that's something that you feel like would make everybody else uncomfortable, maybe that's something you can just share if you're hosting. And so it doesn't even have to be something though that you do outwardly speak. You could just be thinking to yourself, really sitting back and just thinking about, while you're with your friends and family, just the many blessings that you have as you sit there with them. So First Thessalonians 5:18, it just talks about in all things give thanks. And so easy to do when everything's going well in our lives. Giving thanks to things that aren't so good in our lives can be difficult, but we can look at we can try to see what we can be grateful for. For example, maybe you think back this past year, you lost a few loved ones, and it makes you sad, but it also can be an opportunity for you to give thanks for the opportunity you had to know those people, to have memories with them. We can, in all things, give thanks, even in things that aren't so good in our lives. we can still look at what can I be thankful in this situation that seems so dark. And so giving thanks is a really important part of Thanksgiving. Another thing that I would highly recommend is, and I find this is very common, is that we go lie down on the couch or on the floor, and we maybe watch a football game, or really maybe just take a nap, and then all of a sudden it's time to eat again. It seems like it's like, okay, I don't even know. Well, one, I don't feel like I deserve to eat again because I didn't do anything since the last meal, but it's just like, oh, I guess supper time is time to eat. So what I would highly recommend is getting up, even if it's cold outside, because we're up in the Midwest, we're up in Minnesota. It can be cold over Thanksgiving, but I would highly recommend getting up and going for a walk. That will help with increasing digestion. So it'll improve your digestion, help your digestive enzymes, and it'll clear the mind. You'll actually get out in God's creation, and you won't feel lethargic. It'll wake you up, and it will allow for you to, when it does come to the next meal, feel like, yeah, I guess I do deserve to eat again because I actually did get up and do something. So highly recommend that. I know some people, maybe a walk's not the answer. Maybe it's to go play some football. Maybe it's to go play a basketball game. So maybe some sort of sport, or maybe there's snow on the ground, you can go sledding. So there's a lot of things that people could do besides just going, sitting on the couch and falling asleep and taking that nap. So I want to address this. I'm not going to go into great details with this, but this is a real thing, and it's becoming a real thing for a lot more people, is that you deal with food sensitivities. So you may be pretty nervous about going to somebody's place to eat because you don't know what's going to be in that food. You may even feel like it's almost somewhat of a burden because you got to bring your own meal with you, so that you know exactly what you're getting exposed to. And so there are a lot of things that a person can do. You can talk to the hosts if you're going somewhere. If you're at home making your own meal, a lot easier to deal with because you know exactly what's going to be cooked. But definitely food sensitivities can be a big issue for people. So gluten would be a big one. Some people don't understand how they can have contaminate food with gluten. That so if someone's really highly sensitive, they really can't be exposed to any gluten. Dairy is an issue for people. And then there's food sensitivities that people have to nuts, to nightshade plants, to foods that are high in lectins. So it can get really difficult. And so again, just really take the approach to think that, hey, this really isn't about the food. This is about me getting together with family. So if I have to bring my own meal, so be it. I have to bring my own meal. I get to be with my family. I know what I'm eating. I deal with some food sensitivities that really impact my brain, cause me to have vertigo, light sensitivity, sound sensitivity, slurring of my speech. And so I get nervous that if I eat it, because it can take 2 or 3 days before you know if that's going to happen to you or not. And so then you eat that food, and then you might be worrying that you have exposed yourself to some food that you shouldn't have. So I completely understand where people are coming from with that. I have found that I a lot of times just bring my own meal, and it's, to me, not a big deal. I am a very simple eater, though. I can eat chicken, rice, and vegetables every day, 3 meals a day. That's just very easy for me to do because I think it tastes good, and I put enough variety that I'm getting all the nutrients that I need. But some of you may be feeling like, oh, wow, everybody gets to eat all this food and I can't. And so I completely understand that. But just, again, focus on the company that you have, focus on the great things you can be grateful for, that you have food on your plate. Just taking that approach will be, rather than like what you're being deprived of, take the approach of what you can be thankful for. So food sensitivities, again, we do actually a seminar just completely on food sensitivities, what they are, how they are caused, what you can do about them, that kind of thing. And so again, not going to go into great detail here, but it is something that I understand that people have to deal with. So this is just an example of a grain-free Thanksgiving stuffing that is out there that people could eat. So what we're going to do is that if you go to info@valeowc.com, what you can do is you can send us an email and just request these recipes. We have a whole list of recipes out there that are for people that are dealing with food sensitivities, or they may not even be dealing with food sensitivities. They just want to eat a healthy version of the green bean casserole. They want to eat a healthy version of a sweet potato casserole. They want to have some good healthy choices that taste great. Well, we have a whole bunch of recipes that are very much related to food sensitivities and just overall healthy, good tasting foods that really do well when we think of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's for foods. So as we look at this, though, one thing that I can't stress enough is that if you do not take the approach that hey, I really want to eat healthy. I really want to not feel guilty at the end of these holidays. I really don't want to put on extra weight during the holidays. I want to feel good. I want to have lots of energy because I'm eating healthy. If that's truly what you want, you have to make a decision. Everything I just talked about, all these tips that I just talked about, none of them are going to work if you really are not willing to implement the plan. If you're really not that serious about making sure that you're doing the right things so that you can have an enjoyable holiday when it comes to eating. So you have to make a decision that I am going to follow this, that I don't want to give in to those temptations. Because if you don't do that, it's very easy to fall into that temptation. It's really important that you make a decision before you are in front of the temptation. And so if you don't take that approach, you will find that you're going to fail. And then you just have one more thing that you feel bad about yourself for, is because you were not able to achieve that goal of being able to have control over your diet over the holidays. So it's really important that you make that decision before you ever are in front of that temptation. So again, just to go through these really quickly, first thing we want to do is when we put food on our plate, not put too much on our plate of each thing. Start with vegetables. Put the most amount of things on your plate is vegetables, and then whether it be cooked or raw, then turkey, then potatoes, the green bean casserole stuffing, small amounts of that. So again, your plate should look more like that than it looked like that first one. By the table where all the food is, stand by the healthy food or stay away from the table. Make sure that you're eating lots of raw vegetables. If there's none available at the place you're going, just bring some so that you have some that you can snack on, chew on, or if you're the one hosting, make sure you have some there. Don't show up hungry. These foods like green bean casserole, stuffing, these are, I would treat them more like dessert, have very small portions of them. Enjoy a couple bites of it and be done with it. Same with when they call something that's a salad that's not a salad. Know that there's something you can eat there, but not much of it. Same with the desserts. Make yourself a little dessert sampler plate, but maybe a bite of each thing versus a slice of everything. Bring your own dish if you're not sure. Bring a dish that's big enough to share with other people because they may enjoy that food as well. And then you don't have to feel like there's going to be nothing at the place that you're going. Enjoy your friendships, enjoy a time, good conversation, spend that time at that meal, enjoying talking to people rather than just focusing on putting food into your mouth. Eat slow, chew your food. It really helps with digestion. It helps that food to not just sit in your stomach for hours on end. It also helps you to not eat so much by spending time slowing down and chewing your food. Alcohol consumption, drink water in between drinks if you really are that thirsty, or substitute with things that can give you that same flavor and same experience like carbonation. And so try that and see if that can help lower that amount of alcohol. Focus on giving thanks, spending some time at the meal, talking about what you're thankful for, or even just sitting there thinking about it while you're eating with your friends. Get up and go for a walk, move your body, do a sport maybe, something that will get you active and going, so you're not just feeling like, hey, I really haven't done anything but sit on the couch, eat, then sit on the couch some more, eat, and then not feel good about yourself. So get up and move your body. For food sensitivities, you may have to bring your own meal. That's unfortunately what might be the case for you, but still focus on what you can be thankful for, not what you're being deprived of. And then, like I said, if you want to have those recipes that we have put together for Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, then just email us at info@vallejowc.com. In the subject line, just put that you want health or holiday recipes, and we will send you a list of healthy recipes. So that's all I have for tonight. I know that we've got Thanksgiving coming up in a few, in less, a little over a week now. But then we have Christmas will be right around the corner, and then so will New Year's. So hopefully this was helpful. Any questions, Leanne?
Oh, sorry, I've got.
No worries. Yeah, it looks like you and Jim are maybe listening to it.
Oops, I can read. Okay, sorry.
Not a problem.
Yeah, we've sometimes I do a mailing for somebody, and I happened to get one this afternoon, so we're sitting here working, but
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna check out the recipes. I know I've seen several keto recipes for even the green bean casserole, but we're not big on mushrooms and stuff. So I like the roasted vegetable idea. I hadn't thought of that one, but
Yep. And so with the green bean casserole, it doesn't have to be with mushrooms either. So even just roasted beans are really good with some sliced almonds on top. So yeah, and then that stuffing, that recipe, we had a lady years ago do a class on it and demonstrated it, and that was some of the best stuffing I've ever had. So and I remember as a kid just loving stuffing, and my mom's stuffing, and now I can't do gluten or anything like that, so I can't eat it. So it's nice to have an option. So
sure, yeah. And
yeah.
I'm not a big stuffing person, but I know other people that are coming like it. So
Yeah, yep.
okay,
So yeah, so and you guys must be hosting then, eh?
Yeah, so far.
Yeah. Yep, goes well. So all right. Well, hopefully this was helpful, and I'm not sure what the next talk we're doing. I don't think we're doing one in December, but we'll be doing starting up in January again.
Okay.
All right. Well, you guys have a great rest of your night. God bless.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.